Today we have a very interesting disappearance case of a young English man who went missing in the 90s from United Kingdom, and this man went missing essentially from a public bathroom in a small seaside resort town in North Yorkshire. Rain, have you ever heard about Stephen Clark's disappearance?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I don't really remember how I ran across it, but I put myself like a sticky note or something like that to kind of cover Stephen's disappearance, because this is just one of those cases that I gravitated towards, mainly because of the bizarrity, if that's even a word, of the circumstances of the whole disappearance. Let me walk you through the story, and then we can dissect what's happening here. On the afternoon of December 28th, which was a Monday, it was right after Christmas, in the year of 1992. So we're talking about over 30 years ago. 23-year-old Stephen Clark went for a walk with his mother Doris. They stopped at a public restroom in Saltburn, a seaside town in North Yorkshire, before returning home. According to Doris, she last saw her son entering the men's room, but when she exited the ladies' room just minutes later, he was gone and never seen again. So we have a guy who essentially went missing from a public bathroom. Have you ever heard about anything like that?
No, honestly not. And there were no screams, right? No one heard any screaming. The mother.
No, not really. Let's go step by step here, and I will tell you more about the story. So Stephen Clark, he was born in 1969 in Colchester, Essex, England, to parents Charles and Doris, who had both served as police officers. His younger sister was named Victoria. Stephen was in a terrible accident when he was only 2 years old. Doris had left the family home to go shopping when, unknowingly to her, Stephen left the house as a 2-year-old and followed her. She didn't become aware of this fact until she heard a commotion and saw that her son had been hit by a truck.
Jeez.
It's unclear whether anyone else was at home watching Stephen on that particular day. He was only 2 years of age at that point. Stephen had spent a month in a coma and was left with a permanently damaged arm and a pronounced limp. Despite this, he grew up to be a funny, intelligent, and generally happy person who loved music, bowling, and hanging out at a local pub. He also enjoyed swimming and had an avid interest in computers. So it seems like he had a slight mobility issue, and also I think his left arm was not functioning. So he only had his right arm since childhood. But he developed into a pretty good young man. He was active, he was trying to get a job, permanent employment. He was trying his best. So I definitely think he was, he didn't let that particular incident slow him down. Stephen and his sister grew up in South Africa, but the Clark family eventually returned home to England and settled in a village called Marske-by-the-Sea in 1990. The village is located on the coast between the seaside resorts of Redcar and Saltburn by the Sea. Stephen had been 21 when they had returned to England and had only been living for a couple of years before he vanished. That's also something to mention. Stephen attended the Rathbone Society, an organization in Redcar that assisted disabled individuals in finding employment. He worked hard and excelled in his studies, even earning an award for Apprentice of the Year. However, he found that employers often hesitated to give him a chance due to his disability, and his limitations sometimes got him down.
Okay, so far everything seems to be normal, even the part wherein the employers often hesitated to give him a chance due to his disability. I know it's bad, but we also have to remember that this was the early 90s. So everything still was different from today.
Yeah, that's true because nowadays I guess you can
It doesn't matter anymore. Well, unless you're doing like heavy lifting,
heavy
of
lifting.
course,
Yeah, true.
and manual labor, but everything else should be okay, should be normal.
Yeah, but so far the story is understandable here, right?
Yeah, definitely. So far, he seems like just a regular dude.
Trying to do his best with the
Tragic
circumstance.
background, yep.
Yeah, with a bad background, but trying to make the best out of it.
Nothing sketchy.
Nothing so far. Stephen and his father Charles enjoyed attending football games together, usually on Saturdays. Charles often purchased tickets for the both of them, but for unknown reasons, he refused to buy Stephen a ticket to the local Middlesbrough match on December 28th in 1992, on the same day when Stephen vanished. Apparently, Charles told Stephen that if he wanted to go with him, that he would have to pay for his own ticket.
Okay, there we go. A little bit of weirdness here.
Yeah.
What do you think is happening?
Well, I think something could be happening here. I'm not gonna go into specifics right now because I think we need to go over the full story. But yeah, this is strange. Later on, when you see the whole picture, this particular detail might be strange to you. According to Doris, Stephen's mother, and Charles as well, it was a running joke in the family that Stephen didn't like to pay with his own money. He ultimately opted not to go to the game with his father. So I don't know if he had the money to pay for the ticket, but one way or another, according to the parents, Stephen did not go to the game. So Charles, his father, left home at approximately 2 p.m. on December 28th to drive the 10 miles to the stadium, where Middlesbrough would be playing against Crystal Palace. And I think it's kind of strange to, not buy your son the ticket, especially after, the Christmas season. Isn't this supposed to be like family time? Everyone's supposed to be hanging out together. But maybe I'm just looking too deep into this.
It seems so. I would just like to ask, did Stephen have any particular job before he disappeared?
So I'm not sure. It was never mentioned. I think he was trying to get a job, but I'm not sure if he was actively employed or if he had any money. I think he had some money, but I'm not sure how much funds he had.
Because if he was employed, then I would completely understand the father's decision not to get him any tickets so he could pay for it.
Yeah, me too, actually.
But if he wasn't, then it's interesting.
It's interesting. Why particularly on this day, especially
Exactly.
when Stephen disappears?
Was it the first time it happened? Maybe not. We don't know.
Mm-hmm. Good point. After Charles went to the game, Doris and Stephen decided to take a long walk together on the nearby beach in Saltburn. So, to give you a better picture, the whole family, they lived in this town called Marske-by-the-Sea. So Marske-by-the-Sea is also kind of on the coast, but it's not exactly on the coast. And this city called Saltburn is like a seaside resort town. It's like right on the coast, but it's walking distance from Marske to Saltburn. So they decided to go for a walk. According to Doris, as they were heading back, Stephen told her he needed to use the restroom. They stopped at a public restroom near the Saltburn Pier, located roughly 3 miles away from their home. Doris went into the women's room shortly after her son went into the men's room. When Doris came out a few minutes later, she didn't see Stephen anywhere. Assuming that he was still in the bathroom, she waited outside the door for several minutes before coming to the conclusion that he must have already left and started walking home without her. Thinking that she would catch up with him along the way, she headed back to the house. I mean, you don't want to comment on this one? On this particular detail?
No, not necessarily, because I could imagine myself doing the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, like for example, I'm waiting for someone and
Your son?
Yeah,
Your
but
disabled son who
he's
has a
mentally okay.
yeah, but he has a limp.
True. But at the
From
same time, he was an adult, and it doesn't seem like it's stopping him from being a regular working adult.
No, but you don't find it strange that they're going on a walk together, and now he tells his mother that he needs to take a bathroom break. They both go into the bathroom. The mother leaves the bathroom, and she just waits outside the door for a little bit. Stephen doesn't come out, so she starts walking back home. Wouldn't she even, I don't know, knock or go inside of the bathroom?
That's true, actually. Like after maybe like a few minutes, I would go start knocking.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it. Sorry, I'm looking at it at the perspective of like the mother, Doris, was telling the truth. Do we know in particular if she was telling the truth?
No, we don't know nothing.
We're only basing everything on her statement.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what happened that day. This is all according to Doris.
Okay. Yeah, now it's interesting.
Now it got interesting, right? Okay. However, when Doris arrived home, she found that the house was entirely empty. Strangely, there was no sign of Stephen anywhere. And now I have some images. I went online and I took a few screenshots of the public bathrooms near the Saltburn pier. Do you see them? I put them in the file. So, I don't know. Maybe you could describe what you see to the audience members, because I feel like you would do a better job.
Okay, from what I could see, their hometown seems like it's a small-ish town, but it's surrounded by fields. So many fields, and then it's also by the beach, honestly, and I could imagine walking from point A to point B. It looks like a very scenic but beautiful walk.
Yeah, apparently their house was 3 miles away from the public bathroom, so I think it's definitely walkable.
Definitely
distance.
walkable, yep.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very, honestly, without knowing or without hearing the case, I would think it's a beautiful place. Kind of like quiet and peaceful.
It looks really nice. I'm not gonna lie. The public bathrooms, well, honestly, I don't think that they looked exactly the same way that they do right now on the Google Street View, because I think this is a recent image, and the case happened back in '92, so we can't really exactly gauge how it happened, but to kind of build a better picture to our audience members who are listening to this podcast, basically the public bathrooms, they are right next to the pier. And the pier is basically this kind of bridge that leads into the ocean, but it doesn't really lead anywhere. It's not really connecting anything. And I think it's important because there's one line of thinking about what could have happened to Stephen, and it involves an accident in the water. So I immediately want to ask you a question from the images. Do you think that there is a chance that somehow Stephen, by accident, ended up maybe walking on the pier or something like that and then fell over and no one noticed? For me, I will just tell you immediately, I find it hard to believe in this particular line of thinking.
I really find it hard to believe
because even from every Google Street image, we have a lot of people there, so it seems like it's sort of a touristy attraction area, this pier in particular. And I would find it really hard to believe that no one would raise any alarm that there's a man drowning. And also Stephen was 6'3", so he was a big boy. He would be noticed. Okay, yeah, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, honestly, I just wanted to say that this happened on December 28th.
Yeah.
In the middle of winter, so...
On a Monday.
On a
also
Monday.
In the afternoon.
Yeah, so there's probably not as much people.
Exactly. That's another good observation. I also was thinking that, on this particular day, there's probably less people.
Yeah, however, Stephen, he was tall and he had a limp, so he's definitely recognizable.
Very recognizable.
you could distinguish him immediately. But at the same time, if he were going to think that he drowned, there could be a possibility because, as you said, he was disabled.
Yeah.
He had a limp and his
True.
left arm was not working. So the odds were against him. And we don't know if he actually could swim.
That's another good observation. We don't know if he was able to swim or not, but at the same time, it just seems like it's, yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to also add, but the public bathrooms were located a little further away from the bridge.
Yeah. It's not like you really need to look at the pictures to know what we're talking about. There's like a whole beach that you still have to get past in order to get to the water. And also, why would Stephen just start walking in the direction of the water when he only wanted to take a bathroom break?
That's true. And how long did Doris, the mother, take?
Just a couple of minutes.
Exactly. So
apparently.
in the short span of time, is there a possibility that Stephen walked out of the bathroom, walked walked that mile or distance from the bathroom towards the bridge, fell there and drowned?
I
just 2 minutes.
find it really hard to believe.
Yeah, it's.
I find it
me
very
too.
hard to believe that that's how it played out.
So much things happened in such a short period of time.
For me personally, I don't buy that particular line of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
When asked later, Doris said, in her explanation why she didn't go into the bathroom to check if her son was all right or to confirm that he wasn't in there anymore, she explained that he would have been horrified. He was 23, not a child, which to me is a very... I don't know. I don't want to blame the parents here or anything like that, but I feel like I would go in and take a peep. Like, for example, even me being of like a, if my daughter was in the women's room and I was waiting for her by the pier on a Monday in the afternoon and there's not a lot of people, I'm going to peep real quickly, or at least open the door to the bathroom and just shout out like, yo, is everything okay? Are
Call
you
out
here?
the name, right?
Yeah, call out the name. I'm not just gonna start
Walking back home.
thinking that my 22-year-old disabled daughter just kind of started walking on by herself. Like, this story is insane. The more you think about it.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't even do that to my friends.
No.
If, for example, we're walking down the beach, you went into the public bathroom,
Yeah.
and I'm waiting there for like 5 minutes, I'm just literally gonna open the door slightly and call out your name.
The only scenario where I could kind of find this plausible is if Stephen and his mother had a fight along the walk about something, and that
They were both pissed at each other.
both pissed at each other.
And we're like, okay, we're going separate ways. I'm going to the bathroom and you go to the bathroom.
Or like, it would make Doris think that, okay, he's really mad at me right now. He probably left first to go back home.
Or he needs some time to breathe and take a walk.
Yeah.
And I'll give him some alone time.
Yeah, it could be something like that. But it was never reported, so it's a complete speculation from our end if that actually happened or not. It is also unknown exactly when Charles got back from the game. Charles being the father who went to the Middlesbrough game, the football game. But it was sometime after Doris had already realized that their son was missing. She told him what had happened at the pier, and the couple immediately went out to look for him. Stephen, who was described as being 6'3" tall with a medium build, blue eyes and dark brown hair, was last seen wearing a maroon crew neck jumper, a navy blue parka with fur hood, and blue denim jeans and gray trainers. So I would say that he is someone who would stand out, being a 6'3" big tall guy with a limp. I would think you would remember him if you would see him.
Yeah, definitely.
After a fruitless search, they knew it was time to get the police involved. They reported Stephen missing at 6 p.m. that evening, which was around 3 hours after he vanished. Doris let them know that she'd witnessed two men with a little girl enter the restroom right after Stephen did. So two men and the little girl went into the male bathroom, according to Doris, right after Stephen went into the bathroom as well. These people have never been identified or located. In fact, no one has ever come forward to corroborate Doris's story that she and Stephen were there that day. And yeah, I have to think how many people would have been at this location on this particular day. But don't you find it strange that, no one really reported seeing them?
I do. I honestly do. Because two men in a public bathroom with a little girl, it could have been just completely innocent people.
Also, what I'm trying to say is that Doris and Stephen were not seen there by anyone either.
That's what I've been thinking of.
No one saw them there.
Even before, even the beginning of this case, when you mentioned about it, like how can we be sure
that they were there?
That Doris was saying
the truth.
The truth, 100%.
Well, apparently we can't anymore. We have to take her word for it because there's no other proof. No other witnesses, no CCTV footage, nothing.
Sorry, she could have just been a completely innocent grieving mother, but...
Certainly, but...
Was she investigated though?
Yeah, and we will jump into it in a little bit. Nevertheless, the authorities, much like the Clarks, came up with nothing during their search. Not a shred of evidence was discovered that would explain what had happened to Stephen Clark that particular afternoon. In the days and weeks following Stephen's disappearance, several things were reported to investigators. So, there were, I think, 3 total sightings of Stephen. So let's all pay attention here and let's think about if these sightings are credible. So firstly, a witness who knew Stephen personally placed him near the Clark house at approximately 3:45 p.m. on the day when he went missing. That's all we have. Which is kind of strange.
What was he doing?
I don't know. We don't have that much information, but at 3:45 p.m., apparently someone who knew Stephen personally told authorities that they had seen Stephen near the house, and the family reported him missing at 6 p.m. So if we're thinking that the family had something, nefarious to do with his disappearance, at that point, it would still give them a couple of hours before they would report him missing. So that's why I find this particular sighting as very interesting. I wish we had more information, but that's all we have. That just a person who knew Stephen saw him at close to the house. And I mean, it's a very small town, first of all, and you have a 6'3" Stephen who is very distinctive. Could you possibly confuse Stephen with anyone else in that part of England where there's not a lot of people on a Monday? People are probably not really going out and about that much. People are still maybe on Christmas breaks, and you have a 6'3" guy with like a distinctive left arm, distinctive limp, and someone actually saw him at 3:45 p.m. close to the house. So are they lying, or have they just confused Stephen with someone else? Because what I'm trying to, sorry, I'm hogging the airspace. I'm just gonna push it. Drive my point here is that I find it super hard to believe that this witness would mix Stephen with someone else.
You also have to remember this was someone who knew him.
Exactly. Good point. Very good point.
So not only was he a stranger, a tall stranger with a limp, he was Stephen.
Yeah, he wasn't even a stranger with a limp.
Mm-hmm. So I do believe this is credible.
So if it's credible, did that mean that Doris is outright lying about the whole thing? Or Stephen returned back home
after Doris
and just disappeared afterwards.
She just last seen him there by the pier.
That's another line of thinking. Sure, we shouldn't jump to the conclusions and accuse Doris. Sighting number 2. A woman claimed to have seen Stephen from her apartment window 2 days after he had vanished. She saw him leaving the beach in the company of an older man wearing glasses. However, the police were skeptical of her story, given the distance between her living room window and the area where the 2 men were allegedly seen by her. It was unlikely that she would have spotted Stephen clearly enough to identify him. It's unknown if she was in the possession of binoculars also. I think maybe why she reported Stephen there is because maybe she saw a tall guy in the distance. Because any tall guy could be confused with Stephen.
Yeah, this one could be just a
tall
random,
guy. A random tall guy. On January 14th, 1 year later, well, actually not 1 year, because this was 1993, and Stephen disappeared on December 28th. So this is just 16 days later. So 16 days later, after Stephen had vanished, a man named by Stan Kamish, who was a friend of the Clarks of the family, supposedly saw Stephen in Redcar. Redcar is another small town that's kind of very close to Marske. It's less than 10 miles away from Saltburn. He said that he even spoke to Stephen, but didn't think anything of the encounter because he wasn't yet aware that he was actually reported missing. Interestingly, Stan changed his story some years later, confessing that he not only didn't talk to Stephen that day, but that the man he spotted wasn't actually Stephen, rather someone who merely resembled him. Why he initially lied remains a mystery, and Stan has since passed away.
Okay, this lie is really bad. It's terrible. Why would you do that?
It's strange. And why would he not confess for multiple years? You basically lied to law enforcement and you did not confess for multiple years.
Could it be potentially just for attention-seeking purposes?
I mean, I don't know.
Or was he involved in the disappearance?
In the disappearance. Well, I don't think he's involved because he even reported seeing him. So the only strangeness here would be that maybe he has some inside information that maybe the parents are somehow responsible, and then he reverted his sighting. But even that way, why would he revert his sighting? Because initially that would even help the parents. Kind of like having more sightings out there kind of makes it feel like he's still alive and potentially ran away. So,
maybe he knew what happened. Maybe he has some idea. And he's trying to confuse the police.
I don't know. I wouldn't read too much into this particular one because there's not a lot of information here, and it didn't seem like this particular sighting or report or whatever didn't amount to anything in the general big picture. Ultimately, none of the reported sightings could be verified, and with no leads or viable suspects to work with, the case quickly went cold. All of Stephen's personal belongings, including his glasses, his wallet, his watch, were left behind. Neither his bank account nor his savings account were ever touched following his disappearance. He never claimed his £1,000 reward money for his Apprentice of the Year prize. Okay, so I guess this answers the question. He did have some money. But strange, he just vanishes and all of his stuff is still there.
At least we know for a fact that he didn't run away.
He didn't run away. Something bad happened to him.
Yeah, it wasn't a runaway.
Yeah. 7 years later, in 1999, investigators received an anonymous letter that made shocking claims as to what had happened to Stephen. Detective Chief Inspector Sean Page described the contents of the letter as very precise in nature. The letter writer intimated that Stephen was dead and that they claimed to know the responsible person. The full content of this letter was never released to the public. In fact, the existence of this anonymous letter was unknown to the public until 2020, when it was finally released in a heavily redacted form. That same year, the case was suddenly reclassified as a murder investigation. Evidently, the author of the letter implicated Charles and Doris in the alleged murder of their own son. Following a cold case review by the Cleveland County Police, in September of 2020, the couple was arrested. If the letter was the catalyst for the probable cause and arrest, it appears it's unclear why law enforcement waited so many years to make the arrest, because the letter was provided to them in 1999. The woman who wrote the letter, whose identity was never revealed, eventually came forward, but she was unable to produce any evidence of the Clarks' guilt. Doris and Charles were released on bail. An extensive forensic search was conducted in their home, as well as in their yard, garden, and nearby wooded area, but police found nothing relevant to the case. And in February of 2021, after a grueling 17-week investigation, Stephen's parents, Doris and Charles, were officially cleared of suspicion in their son's disappearance. Stephen's younger sister, Victoria, said that there was no way her parents would have hurt Stephen, and she criticized the police for relying on an anonymous letter. She said this: "I mean, the letter was even addressed to the wrong police force. The name was wrong. It went to a different police force in Guisborough, which is not the police that we're dealing with. So why it was taken so seriously, I really don't know. But it has devastated our family," she said. And yeah, this is a big development that happened in 2020.
I mean, we gotta admit that the coincidence is just pretty weird. The dad was away for a game, and he didn't buy
on that particular
Stephen,
day. He didn't buy it. And then the mom's story, honestly, I
just walking for 3 miles. All of a sudden, no one has ever seen Stephen again. It's really crazy. If they were innocent, what a crazy coincidence.
Yeah, just a lot of things are not going their way.
No, a lot of things seemed, if they were not innocent, if they actually did the do, a lot of things went their way.
Yeah.
It's just really sketchy, like the series of events.
Yeah, so let me finish up what we have in the story before we kind of start dissecting this piece by piece.
Mm-hmm.
According to Doris and Charles, Stephen was dating a girl that he met at the local pub at the time, which was called the Ship Inn. This relationship with the girl lasted about a week or 10 days, so it was a very new relationship. Stephen liked to go to this local pub. She was always there, and they were about the same age. They never met anywhere else other than that pub. And apparently it was not a very serious girlfriend just yet, because the relationship was very fresh, very new. Neither parent believed that this particular relationship with this girlfriend of his had anything to do with his disappearance. That's also something we should take into account. Potential girl problems, maybe.
But what are we trying to...
Nothing. So far, nothing.
Okay.
Just let's move to your story. Later on, I'll tell you more about this. The Clarks also expressed that Stephen's behavior appeared to be perfectly normal, both on and leading up to the December 28th, and that there was no family strife or other problems as far as they knew. Detective Mark Williams referred to the case as one of the most bizarre he's ever investigated. Detective Chief Inspector Sean Page said that there are no active lines of inquiry currently, but that they would be continuing to respond to any intelligent information which may help them locate Stephen. The Cleveland and North Yorkshire police indicated that they believe that Stephen was in a relationship with a girl he'd met at the Rathbone Society at the time of his disappearance. The Rathbone Society, once again, is the society for disabled people who are trying to find skills and get employment. It's unclear if there's any significance attached to this piece of information about a girlfriend. Aside from his parents, no other suspects have ever been identified in Stephen's case. Theories for why he vanished include suicide, abduction, murder, and leaving to start a new life. But to this day, nothing substantial has ever been discovered to lend credence to any of these speculations and theories. And that's all we have on Stephen's case. Very strange case. What do you think about it? What's jumping to your head right now?
I know we have several theories that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we have a few for sure.
Yeah, I would like to talk about them first, but as of the moment, I'm kind of leaning towards the parents.
That they're not saying complete truth.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're completely like bad people or they did something bad. But
almost feels like they're holding on to something, right?
Yeah, it just seems like there's something missing, some information.
All right, so after thinking about this case for a little bit, I found a few things that were in particular very interesting to me. So the first thing I would like to ask you, and maybe the audience members and anyone who has more information about this case, is there any concrete proof that Stephen actually went to the bathroom that day? Because what do you think about it? Do you think there's a chance that he just didn't go there at all?
Of course.
From the story, do you think that... Okay, I'll just put it this way. Do you think that Stephen actually went on the walk?
We have his little sister to attest to that. So probably, yeah, maybe.
Where was the little sister, Victoria? Because
inside the house?
I don't know. She was never mentioned.
Yeah, that's interesting. We would like to
She was also in her early 20s. She was 14 months younger.
Yeah, I would like to know where she was at that time. Did she see Doris and Stephen go out for a walk together?
Exactly. I feel like the daughter here probably plays a pretty big role. Mm-hmm. And obviously law enforcement, spoke to her.
And even so, sorry, if they actually went out for a walk, how can we be sure that they actually reached that particular spot? The beach, the pier, the bathrooms.
Because no one reported Stephen, no one saw him there.
Yeah.
And if you're in Saltburn, you're probably going to go to the pier. So there's no other places to go in Saltburn. So there should be at least someone there.
Yeah. There could be a possibility that Stephen never really left the house that day. Or there's also a possibility that he never reached a public bathroom.
And I think there's also a possibility that he did go in there.
Yeah.
And the Doris is telling the truth.
Yeah, possibilities are endless.
I would say it's highly unlikely, in my opinion, that Doris is telling the truth here. I just find it so hard to believe in the story. Unless she would describe the whole scenario differently from what I've read online. But literally what is written online is so hard to believe.
I do think she could have been telling the truth, but not the whole truth.
Not the whole truth. Maybe
it's like
the
modified.
fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe there was a fight or something like that. I don't know. If she was telling the truth, do you think there's a actual chance that Stephen went into the water? I mean, we already briefly talked about it and we said that we don't believe it, but now after the full story...
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. Well, the thing is, it's such a short period of time.
It's a real quick, short period of time.
There could be a possibility that he went in after Doris left. Maybe, actually, he was there inside the bathroom.
Yeah.
And Doris left, and then he went out and he was looking for Doris, or he was like walking around and something could have happened.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Hard to believe, though.
Yes.
Now, if Stephen's parents are somehow involved, the first question I have is what would be their motivation to cause harm or murder Stephen? I find absolutely no motivation to do that.
This might be controversial, and this is highly unlikely. When I say highly unlikely, like 99% not. But could there be a possibility that they were getting sick of taking care of the kid?
Yeah, I would say like that's I've seen that mentioned somewhere online. Like that's the speculation that some people have. I still think you already lived for 23 years with Stephen, and on top of that, Stephen was excelling. So it's not like Stephen was not even self-sufficient. I feel like
True.
Stephen was self-sufficient. He had his own money, apparently. I'm thinking more about an accident.
Oh,
And
they
then
were
a
covering it
cover
up.
up. Yeah, to get out of trouble. I'm thinking if there's a family involvement, I'm thinking about an accident right now. I have no idea
Like
how.
somewhere in the hills while they're walking.
The walking story could be a complete fake story.
Mm.
Something completely, entirely different could have happened.
Entirely different, but in the sense that the family is hiding the truth.
Yeah,
So something terrible.
potentially.
But it's interesting though, because for an adult to have an accident,
No,
how?
they would accidentally kill him.
Oh, how?
I don't. Yeah, how exactly would that happen? That's also a good question. I don't have.
He's a little kid, then.
I don't have. Sorry.
Sorry, if he's a little kid, like a 4-year-old, 5-year-old,
It would be a
boy.
lot. There would be a lot more possibilities there.
Yeah, I could understand the accident, but he was a complete adult.
What kind of accident would it be where the family would hide his death? Because if it's like an accident that, he ate some poison or something like that, I think they would not get blamed for that.
Definitely not. He was an adult.
So it would be like an accident where maybe he got they hit him with a car or something, but then again,
Or he fell off the hills because of a fight.
even then it wouldn't make sense to do this whole thing. Well, okay, so hold that thought. I do believe that law enforcement has way more information,
Definitely, always.
because would law enforcement just arrest Doris and Charles just because of an anonymous letter sent 20 years ago? No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't just arrest someone because, they just decided to arrest them. They specifically know something. Law enforcement specifically knows something about Doris and Charles, but not Victoria, because Victoria, the younger sister, is not involved here, about the parents, and they tried to they arrested them and tried to prove their guilt. But they couldn't really do it. They searched their home. They believed that there's something in the property, on the house, in the backyard, in the garden, that could prove to them that they had something to do with Stephen's disappearance. But what could that be? What could that information be? And also, is there any proof that Charles even went to the football match? That's another thing. Did they ever investigate that part?
Maybe he had tickets.
Yeah, maybe he had the tickets. I don't know.
Maybe, because either if not, then it would have been proven.
Good point. Maybe it would have been proven already if he wasn't at the
It
at
would
the
have been
game.
mentioned if he was.
Maybe it would have been mentioned somewhere. That's for sure. Okay. Do you think that Doris was telling the truth about the two men and the girl going into the bathroom?
Yes, but
So
they could be randoms.
if she was telling the truth,
If she was telling the truth, yeah, they could be random people. Because
how would they be involved in Stephen's disappearance?
exactly, Like, it just looks like maybe some dudes and one guy brought his daughter with him.
Daughter, yeah.
I don't think this poses as anything significant because it could be just, it seems like a random bunch of people.
Yeah. That just maybe never heard about Stephen's case.
Yeah.
Maybe they were just visiting Saltburn.
Yeah, it could be anyone.
All right. Do you think that any of the sightings are credible? The 3 sightings.
The first one.
The first one. The first one. Remember 3:45 p.m. on the same day when he went missing? This would be literally like 2 hours into his disappearance. That's interesting to me.
I definitely believe that the first one was credible. The second one, nope, too far and too random. And the third one, it was even proven that it was a lie.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first one, I believe.
The first one is credible. Now, speaking about that letter that was sent by an anonymous woman about, well, the woman actually came forward later on. So get this. So someone 7 years after Stephen disappears sends the letter to law enforcement implicating the parents. We don't know in which way, but law enforcement said it's very precise. It's very precise information. And this person with very precise information about Stephen's murder waited 7 years to report it, to send it to police. Who could it be?
Someone from the family, a relative maybe. You mentioned that this woman came forward, no?
She came forward, but we don't know who she is.
Oh.
Law enforcement just said that they were able to talk to her. So get this. This woman sends an anonymous letter about Stephen's disappearance 7 years after he disappears with very specific and detailed information about his murder. And then 21 years later, goes to the police and actually identifies herself. So it would mean that she truly believes in what she was saying.
Definitely. I'm just thinking like...
She truly believes in what she's saying.
Yeah, but is she somehow related to the family? Because...
We have no idea.
As you mentioned, the letter was precise and detailed. Like,
Yeah.
how can someone, let's say, maybe a close neighbor,
Yeah.
but how come... could it possibly be a former teacher or something? But I don't know. How can someone who wasn't close to that family write something so detailed?
Precise information. I don't know. Maybe it could be a friend of Doris, and
Or
Doris,
friend of
maybe
Stephen's.
Doris, I don't know, confessed
It could be
to her.
I think the likelihood of it someone being inside the inner circle
Yeah,
is high.
and I feel like there's so much hidden info that law enforcement has, and definitely Doris and Charles, they know more. Come
They
on,
definitely know
this
more.
just feels like they should know more. In my opinion.
They could be completely innocent.
They
Let's
could be,
not-
yeah. Like I was about to say the same thing. They could be completely innocent, and they literally could not know anything more.
But we need more information.
Also, it kind of helps them that they're like former law enforcement people.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Hey,
both-
you forgot to mention this.
No,
but-
I mentioned it earlier
Oh.
in the podcast that they are both former police officers, which I think if they're gonna hide something from the police, it gives them a huge advantage.
Definitely.
They know how police works. So that's also something to think about. And this is the last kind of theory that I want to bring up here that maybe you didn't think of. Remember that Stephen had Stephen had a girlfriend. A girlfriend for like 10 days. So this is a completely, shot in the dark theory, but is there a chance that Stephen and this girlfriend broke up, or maybe the girlfriend, dumped him or something on this day, and that he wanted to,
Off himself.
commit self-harm?
And the mom just covered it up.
No, the mom didn't cover it up. I guess the mom just doesn't know what happened. In this line of thinking, the mom told police everything she knows, but Stephen had ended his life.
There's a possibility. Yeah.
But how could he have done in such a quick manner? I think it would only be this way. I think the only way he could really do it is if he goes into the bathroom. He literally waits by the door. He listens to the woman's bathroom door closing, and then he immediately goes.
I was supposed to say that, yeah. I was
Oh,
thinking,
sorry.
No, it's all good. A very good point. I was thinking maybe he actually waited maybe like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, knowing that his mom would walk back home. And then he left the bathroom and proceeded to do something.
Something, yeah. But why? Why would you pick this weird moment when...
He was alone. Dad is at the game. Mom.
Yeah, but he had freedom of movement, so he could have just left one day and never returned.
Maybe it's just...
Why disappear? Why do that on a walk with your mother?
Well, some things we couldn't explain. Some things could just be like something random. He just wanted to do it.
True.
If we're going with that theory.
Yeah, true.
Maybe he really didn't think about it much.
That's a good point. If you're gonna do something like that, I guess sometimes you have to
just
also...
a spur of the moment, perhaps.
Yeah, like maybe we're looking way too rationally into this. Maybe he was undecided, if that was the case, which I don't think was the case, because there's no indication that there was any relationship problems with the girl, and I guess the girl never really told law enforcement. I'm not sure if she was ever identified, but law enforcement did say that they believe that he was with a girlfriend from that society that helps disabled people. So maybe it was also like some sort of a disabled girl in some way, but we don't know in which way. And I don't know, it was never reported that they had any problems. So this leaves me with just a handful of possibilities. Stephen was never at the pier to begin with, and the mother is lying. Stephen got somehow abducted from within the bathrooms. Stephen waited for his mom to go into the bathroom and then immediately ran away. And then Stephen somehow ended up in the water. So these are the only like rational possibilities that I have here. And I'm leaning towards that Stephen was never at the bathroom. Because I don't think the bathroom story is believable. And I do think that the mother is lying, in my opinion.
Is there a possibility that Doris and Stephen were out for a walk, they were at the pier, and some bizarre accident happened? We don't know.
That would somehow make Doris guilty.
Yeah. Stephen fell down, drowned.
But Doris would have to be guilty. Because why else would she cover up an innocent accident?
Like rolled down the hill.
It literally would have to be like she was
pushing him,
or like had her gun or something and just accidentally shot and killed. You know what I mean? That's the only way.
Or like they were fighting and she pushed him.
And it would have to be somewhere it fell down, but there are no cliffs there.
The bridge. What about the bridge? The pier.
Oh, that she somehow pushed him by accident or... But even then, why cover it up? Why not just lie to police that he fell down by his own accord?
That's true.
Why immediately go into this crazy story and then have a complete poker face and like ace the questions?
And that's her son.
Yeah, and she just would... No, man. Something tells me that, honestly, since a lot of this information is missing, I think there's even a chance that Stephen was already gone even before 28th of December. Like, what's happening on the 27th or the 26th? What's happening on Christmas? How's the Christmas like?
That's true. Well, the information is practically not available.
And then law enforcement opened up a cold case, a 30-year-old cold case, and arrested the parents. They must have something super concrete.
And the lady who wrote the letter
also believes 100% and gave very detailed information. So I will say this, when you look into Stephen Clark's disappearance, the first few articles on Google will be how the parents got mistreated by police. But after analyzing the information that I found online, I have to say that I won't blame the law enforcement here at all. And I do have, from the information that's available online, I have huge suspicions of the family, of the parents. I have huge suspicions in Stephen's case. And I will be tracking this case, but I don't know what's going to happen next. And nothing might happen now. I think the family is going to sue the police now for arresting them. And they might get, compensated for that. Rightfully so or not. We just don't know.
We're just speculating here.
But man, after looking into everything, I have huge red flags emanating from the parents. Humongous red flags. The story doesn't make any sense. Someone's heavily implicating them, and law enforcement arrested them 30 years later. There must be something concrete here. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if we knew what police knows, and if we could read that letter,
it would definitely help us.
I feel like we would be leaning towards the parents' involvement even more. So there's because right now, everything just, if you really look at it with open eyes, dude, the parents look really shady, really bad here. Mm-hmm. Really bad. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for listening to the podcast. I mean, Rain, do you have anything else that you want to add? But
no, that's all for me.
I think we kind of dissected everything here.
Definitely.
Super, everything was touched. Mm-hmm. But if we missed something, then hopefully, guys, you can comment. Let us know what you think. And thank you for listening to our podcast. And we will be back with other cases that we want to talk about. Thank you, guys.
And if you have any case suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below.
Yeah, we love that. Be safe, and we will talk to you later. Bye, guys.
Bye.